Peace and Black Power family. It's your Harlem educator, author, and activist, the Black Liberation Coach, representing the Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Or as we said, Harlem Liberation School, Wukusu, right? The Wukusu method or approach. I want to thank you all for joining us. Those of you watching live, those who will watch the later recorded version, we thank you in advance. This is a Black Power sermon, family. I think that we usually equate sermons with the big church, Baptist church, usually Sunday at 11 or 10, and that you have to be a Christian. But the fact of the matter is that is not the case. If you have what you believe is important news or message or information to get out to the people, right? That can be a sermon as well. So this is not about religion. For those of you who are really anti-religion, it's not coming from that vein. But I know the word sermon resonates with our community. We know something important, something that's going to be kind of regular and consistent, we should pay attention. So that's why we do it in that sort of spirit. Again, we want to send our condolences to the family and the comrades of our brother Baba Sekou Odinga, who became an ancestor yesterday. A great freedom fighter, certainly a model of what it looks like. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that, what it looks like in this particular broadcast. That it's important that we model the things that are important, that we believe are important for ourselves, our families, our communities, that we have models that people can look to and say, oh, that's what it looks like. That's kind of what it sounds like, right? So we're going to get into it. Today, we are talking about how to sabotage the wicked. Now, once again, I know y'all saying, oh man, this is a religious thing. No, it is not religious thing. But if you think about the work of Malcolm X, you think about the work of Marcus Garvey, think about the work of people like Sekou Odinga, or now an ancestor, freeing people like Assata Shakur, joining the Black Liberation Army, being a very direct challenge to police officers that were killing our people. What work were they doing? Think about it. What work were they doing? You get all the way to the bottom. What motivated them? A love for their people, a love for freedom and safety and liberation, right? A love for Black unity and Black power. But they were fighting wickedness, family. Wasn't just Jesus doing that, right? It wasn't just Martin Luther King. Religious people was regular people who may not have been religious at all. But they believed that our people had a right to be free, to live in dignity and with integrity and in safety, and be able to do the jobs or follow the career paths that our skills and our will dictated. They were fighting wickedness, and we need to be very clear. So when you hear that wicked thing, that's not about religion, right? That's a word, and we're going to get into what that means. We're going to describe that. We're going to give examples of wickedness in the world, and we're going to talk about specific, concrete ways that we can sabotage. And I know you're probably wondering, why am I saying sabotage? That's usually a word we associate with being something negative and nefarious, right? We're going to get into that. I'm going to look at a few of the comments real quick because once I did get this, I want to go through it and then we'll come back. So, I'm going to tell you, definitely support the movement. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, because we're also on my Facebook, two of my Facebook pages. But we're also live on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel now. If you're on Facebook, open up the page on YouTube and subscribe and come back. So please do that to help us out. The more subscribers we have, the greater our reach and scope, the more we're able to do, the more people we're able to reach. We have Queen B, Brenda Hilais, giving you the greetings of Wukusu. Again, that's wake up, clean up, and stand up. Thank you to the Queen, who, by the way, is in much better spirits from what I see than she was last week. And we want to also publicly thank all of you. I know I put up a post, there's hundreds of people, hundreds of you have come out and said, oh my God, we're praying, we're affirming for you, we're meditating, he's going to be all right. And she certainly appreciates it, being the one that's going through it. And I certainly appreciate it, being that that's my queen, my baby girl. So we want to thank the community for your outpouring of love and consideration for the queen. The Blue Kashun is in the building, waving peace. Again, it's the Queen welcoming you, and the Queen asking you to click the button and subscribe. Now, let's get into it, family. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to be using some Google Slides. I'm going to add that now. And we're going to get right into it, family. When we say wicked, you hear this term all the time. Some of you who grew up in the church, you heard it every time you went to church, Sunday school. If you had a parent that was deeply, devoutly Christian or whatever, you heard this, the wicked and wickedness. But really, when you take all of the sort of religiosity out of it, what does it mean as a word, as part of the language? It means people that are wicked, institutions that are wicked, are evil, unethical, immoral, right? Okay. It means that these people or these institutions, they cause or they're working and intending to cause harm to people. In this case, Harlem Liberation School is talking about black people, but this is anybody, right? Now, for those of you who aren't convinced yet, no, this is about religion. No, I'm going to give you some examples. You see on the screen, slavery was evil, taking people from their native land. It was unethical, lazy people getting other people to do their work and not letting them share in any type of monetary sort of recoupment. That's unethical. Harmful, immoral, yes. No man was put on here to own any other man or woman. Unethical, immoral, certainly and caused harm. Many of us, I had to change my names to African names in about 1991. And I don't know what my actual names would have been. I don't know my lineage completely. I can't go all the way back. Why is that? Because Europeans came and disrupted that our lineage chain, right? In slavery, a lot of records weren't kept. A lot of records were destroyed, and definitely during the Civil War, right? So we have very scarce records. Some of us are trying to go back, find our family, swabbing our cheeks, and it's very difficult because of the legacy of slavery, taking us from our native land, bringing us here, and the miscegenation, as white man used to call it, or the race mixing, right, made that even more difficult, right? To the point where in the Nation of Islam, they put an X, like Malcolm did, to indicate, I don't know what my name would have been, but I'm not adopting the white man's name. This is a rejection of those European slave names, and this is an adaptation of what I believe would be an African name, right? So that's an example. Colonization. People coming to places like Northern Africa, certainly sub-Saharan Africa in the 1800s with the Berlin Conference. And literally 8 or 9 European nations dividing Africa up like a cake in slices and saying, these territories will be mine. These will go to Belgium. These will go to Italy. These will go to Germany. These will go to Spain, Portugal, France. It's crazy. Britain, that's certainly wicked. It was evil. It was unethical. It was immoral. It caused great harm. You had regions in ancient Africa, family. Let's say Ghana. Let's say Nubia, right? Where it was one group of people, and then colonization made these artificial boundaries. The white man came, made his own boundaries, and decided what these countries would be called, renamed ancient places, right? Or took people that had beef with each other, because we're humans like anybody else. We have beef sometimes with other people, and took territories that actually had beef and made them one because they marked out what the territories were. So, and those beefs continue. In Rwanda, what happened, the Tutsi and the Hutsi hacking and rapes and that terrible massacre goes all the way back to the Berlin Conference of 1884, where they made these false divisions and barriers in Africa. Engine now, I say socially engineered incarceration. What do I mean? Well, family, if people go around here killing people, sexually assaulting people, kidnapping people, stealing from the community, there needs to be a consequence, right? Some say that one of those consequences are prison. But when the society itself sets up laws unfairly or has agents of law enforcement, the police, unfairly arresting certain types of people and not arresting other types of people for the same exact crimes, or doing slick stuff like we're going to make the sale of powdered cocaine, which more affluent people had access to at a particular point in America. We're going to make that less of a punishable offense. And selling crack cocaine, coming from the same cocaine, just goes through a process, right? We're going to make the prison sentences for that much longer, right? Sort of this disproportional policing. That's unethical and it's immoral, and it's the reason why America has the greatest prison population of all industrialized countries, family, and the overwhelming majority of the people that are locked up in cages. Some of them can go out for 1 hour a day. None of them make a lot of money, like 30 cents an hour, 30 cents a day. It's literally almost akin to slave labor, minus the fact they get a very small wage. They're using them for labor exploitation. A lot of tilapia fish you eat, some of the furniture you sitting on, some of the parts of the car you driving, some of your appliances. Many of them are made by incarcerated people, family, just so you know, who are paid nothing for it. So again, it's corporations, typically white supremacist white folk, that are benefiting off of exploiting our labor. When we say wickedness, other examples for those who need more, how about socially engineered drug epidemics? Why was it that heroin, that was all throughout the country in the 70s, disproportionately destroyed, or I won't say destroyed, devastated places like my hometown of Harlem, which is not even a city, it's a huge community or section of a city. All these cities all over the country, why was Harlem so disproportionately hit? Well, I suspect it's because Harlem has been, for many decades, a center of Black resistance, Black radical activism, Black revolutionary organizations and rhetoric and speech and writers. We can go in movements. So it was kind of like, let's cut off the head. Let's cut off the place where a lot of stuff is percolating, right? John Henry Clark, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Queen Mother Moore. I can keep going. James Baldwin, Langston Hughes. I keep going. Let's cut that off, and maybe that will have a negative or disastrous effect on the rest of the Black nation, right? Drug epidemics, miseducation. That's evil, unethical, and immoral. Why? Well, because the Black people that live in these cities, presuming that they work so-called legitimate jobs, are paying taxes, and some of their taxes are going to fund public education. That's how they can make education public, by the way. If we didn't have that, we'd be like a lot of countries where you have to pay to go to school. And if your family don't have money, you don't go to school. But we have public education, which means the government takes some money from your taxes. Now imagine that the government is taking money out your salary, taxes, to pay for public education. But your public schools where you live in the Black neighborhoods have antiquated books, antiquated technology, right? Passed down from previous generations, um, inadequate facilities, teachers who are brand new, not as schooled, not as knowledgeable or effective. Imagine that. That's unfair. That's unethical. If we're paying taxes like everybody else, that means our people are entitled to have quality education. And by the way, quality education is possible in public schools. It's possible if you have the right people in leadership, the right thinking behind those people, and you have the adequate access to resources, right? Let's talk about the toxic environments. Most of our people in the inner city live in environments with certain highways, exhaust fumes going on. We got what we call food deserts, where if you was to do a 10-mile walk in a 10-block radius of where you live, you would find Popeyes, KFC, Domino's, all that stuff, a lot of what we call junk food, fast food, food that is not particularly good for our bodies or minds. We're surrounded by that, and we have to go way out the community to get decent food, right? It's been that way since I was a kid. It's a little better now because we have Grubhub and Instacart and all these things. But still, we should be able to go take a 2-minute walk in our communities and get fresh food, unprocessed food, fresh juices that sustain our bodies, that make keep our minds alert, that keep our skin glowing. Our people many times don't, family. And that is a function of wickedness. We need to be real clear. This is not accidental, right? What about poverty? What about generational poverty? What causes generational poverty? When you can go back, there are some of our families that generations were on public assistance. Don't look down on them because they're on public assistance, but why was that the option? Why was that the card they had to play? And then you go back and you got some white generations that for decades and decades going back, and some even centuries going back, like the Rockefellers, for instance, or the Morgans, for instance, or the Mellons, for instance. How were they rich every generation almost for 6, 7, 8 generations? And who enriched them? And what was the process that enriched them? Some of these universities, like Brown, and some of these universities that we uphold, built on the backs of money generated by the enslavement of our people. Some of these institutions started off as insurance companies enslaving the slave ships that transported our people from the motherland to another land. So poverty is not just a matter of uh, people are lazy, people don't want to work for what they want, and, people are financially illiterate. Yo, there's black people who have been busting their ass for 20, 30, 40 years. Some people with full-time jobs, part-time jobs, and they get laid off or they retire, they don't got a bullshit pension or whatever it is. In other words, I'm arguing that a lot of what we see economically is not just a matter of personal effort and initiative or lack thereof. It's structural and systemic. We're in a capitalist country. So we have to be very clear, right? You're paying for education in some ways. Some of us paying 2 times taxes for public school. And then we say, man, this is why we're going to put our kid in private school. You just paid 2 times for education. Other people pay their taxes and their public schools are top notch. They pay 1 time for education. You pay twice. So there's a lot of things that work to create what we call wickedness or a climate of wickedness. Just to be clear, this is not about it gotta be in the Bible for it to be wicked, family. There's wickedness going on as we speak right now. Okay, let us move on. So then when we say wicked people and forces, evil, unethical, immoral, they cause harm or they're working to cause us harm. Why should we sabotage wickedness, right? Sabotage is a negative term. The white man sabotaged our Black liberation movement and our civil rights and Black power organizations with something called COINTELPRO, where they framed people up, they lied on people, they had people surveying King and X and all these people. Why would we want to sabotage anybody? Well, wait, the actual meaning of sabotage, and again, we got to know this language, it's a deliberate action that aims to weaken or prevent someone or something from being successful. So if someone's doing evil to you and trying to cause you harm, it is logical to sabotage their efforts, because when you sabotage their efforts, you're weakening them or stopping them, right, from harming you. So certainly we should sabotage wickedness. The people who are working to lock us up in prison, some of our best and brightest in prison, right? Some of our geniuses mathematically, in terms of leadership, all types of things are in prison. That is a fact. All these homes that would love to have some fathers or father figures in homes, and a lot of them are locked up in prison, right? We should be working to sabotage the plan to lock all of us up in prison. Absolutely. We should be working to weaken and prevent the efforts to make our kids deaf, dumb, and blind, can't read or can't read well, can't write or can barely write at the level that you presume they should be able to, can't critically think, right? from the school system, or they have a very limited idea of how to use language, or they have a very limited knowledge of the people that came before them and the movements that came before them. So there's no connect. They're completely disconnected, right, from their own struggle. They look around, they see other ethnic groups supposedly popping, and they think bad of themselves and don't know, wait, your people was popping even greater than that. Mansa Musa is now finally recognized as the richest man in world history, a Muslim brother from the great region of Mali, which of course is not the same Mali that we call today, which was a country now in modern Africa, right? They don't tell you about civilizations we created, and they don't tell you the story of how you can take a proud people, a discerning people, and intelligent people and innovative people, people that had protocol, they understood protocol. They had protocols for how stuff went down. There was a way you did stuff. Respect was important. Education was highly valued. Teachers and people like that were highly valued, right? They don't tell you about that. And then how somebody came and systematically took from them when they was getting stuff from them was cool. And then when they decided, no, we gotta take their stuff, then we became savages and primitive. Same thing they did to native, so-called Native Americans, right? So now you look at these people, we their descendants, say, Mom, Dad, why how come you ain't got a big car like so and so do? Why should I listen to you, Uncle? You ain't got no big block long department store. You talking all that wisdom, where's your see? So they got a materialist conscience where they now associate everything that's important and wholesome and beautiful with money, right? And yet, when you look at the great teachers throughout history, not even just black people, none of them were rich. Huh? Socrates wasn't rich. This is real. Marcus Aurelius wasn't rich. The Stoicism philosophers that come out of Greece and Rome, they weren't rich. The Jesus Christ they talk about in the Bible wasn't rich. The man didn't have a home. He didn't have a stable home. He was nomadic. He went from place to place, and people fed him and housed him. The Buddha was born rich, born into royalty, but he renounced it and gave it up. It's trying to tell you something, family, that when you associate material accumulation of goods and money, things with wisdom and being beautiful and being pure and being valuable, you're making a great mistake. We have so many examples. None of those teachers were rich. But now, today, our young people won't listen to you. They don't respect, man. They in their head, they're like, yeah, what up? If you all that and you know all that, where's your ABC? Disconnected from what's right and true, right? Because they have a materialist conscience and they don't know the history, right? That's where the history is so important, right? So the righteous, the oppressed, the mistreated, the exploited, we want liberation. We want to govern ourselves. We want to sink or swim in our own ideas, our own innovation or lack thereof. And this, by necessity, means we must weaken the wicked. We must prevent them from being successful. And by definition, that's called sabotage. We must sabotage the wicked. This means we must be meaningfully involved. We must be proactive and intentional. We must go out the house intentionally to make the devil's job difficult. In the Christian church, they say, when I wake up, I want the devil to be upset. Right? I want to be, oh man, this brother, this sister again. Yeah, because they know that we are what? Intentionally sabotaging their wickedness. Right? All right. Now, let us get to the main point of the discussion. Then we're going to get to some comments. And if you have questions, we're going to get into that. Um, how do we sabotage wicked people and forces, institutions, and stuff like that? Number one, you got to be coachable. Number one, our ancestors taught that the mind is all and all is the mind. Consciousness, knowledge. So that means what? Study to identify sites of wickedness. Study to identify institutions that are wicked. People in your community who are involved with wicked policies and practices. How do they harm us? How does these wicked institutions, how do they work? How do these laws work? How do they disproportionately harm us and benefit others? And what are the ways that our soldiers and our warriors in the past and present fought with this wickedness? Right? Got to study always. You don't just jump out there on a whim. Study. And a lot of answers are right in the books and right in your newspapers and right in what you see. If you just go out and look at what's going on, talk to people. Two, it means by being coachable, listen very actively to the advice, the perspectives, the experiences of people who successfully sabotage wickedness. We have a long history, family, of people who are celebrated, people who are not so celebrated, that's documented in books and documentaries and library archives, of people who fought miseducation, people who fought disease and malnutrition, people who fought sickness and illness, people who fought our poverty, people who fought our disunity, our ignorance. We have a long history. This goes back millennia, right? Aesop, you like Aesop's fables. You learned about that as a kid. Did you know Aesop was a black man? Yeah. So this goes back, this ain't new for us. We've been teachers for millennia, right? So the first thing is get your knowledge base right. Know what's going on, know what you're looking at, the nature of it, and how we can, what its vulnerable places and how we can sabotage. The next thing is share your research. When you find out that this is how the schools work, this is what's wrong with these charter schools, this is what's wrong with these hospitals, this is what's wrong with these history books, this is what's wrong with this legislation, right? Share that information. Make sure it's accurate, of course, but share it. Get that information out so that you can empower your people with this research and information. Very, 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 very important. Three, a lot of you say these are so general, Agyei. Well, maybe. This would take 8 hours if we went through every single thing. These are the main things. If you do these in understandings, they'll lead you to other people and other things. That's how it works, right? Number three, create organizations and initiatives to monitor, research, expose, challenge the people that attack us. That's one way. Or create organizations and initiatives to strengthen and protect us in the areas where we are attacked, right? So, for instance, some people create things that are like watchdog groups. They study, watch the cops, citizens review boards. That's their contribution. They watch the cops. They take surveys and polls, and they collect data and information, and they make that available to the community. That's what they do. Some people may go out and protest those cops, misconduct, police brutality, right? Some organizations in the past actually fought against the cops, and we're not. This particular show, we're not getting into that part. We're gonna keep this a little user friendly, so to speak. But there's different ways to do it, right? So you can either um, educate, you can expose what's happening, right? Exposing what's going on in Flint with this dirty water. What happened? What caused that? What happened in Katrina? Why wasn't the Bush administration as responsive in a timely fashion as it should have been? Why is it that certain parts of New Orleans didn't get flooded as seriously, but certain wards did? Why is that, right? Exposing things, bringing it out. I would suggest that you could expose people as well, but I would suggest that you got to be careful with that, the exposing the people, because that can backfire in certain ways. That can make you an unnecessary target. That can get people who want to sue you for slander and libel, and you putting yourself in a whole nother thing. It comes off like you're attack. It's a personal attack with you against a person. I would suggest simply expose those people by telling people how do Uncle Toms act? What are the traits of neocolonial leaders? What are the traits of people that are sophomoric in their as leaders, or people who are duplicitous in their leadership? What are the examples, the characteristics of a cult? How might you know, man? I'm in a cult. You don't have to bang on a specific cult. You don't have to name names all the time. Sometimes you just expose people to the process, how it works, and they will see. They will be able to identify things for themselves. The other thing that's important with creating actual organizations not just trying to go it on your own. Create something that can get other people involved, you know. And what this does is it recruits people in the community who may see things like you do. They want to sabotage wicked people and institutions like you. It recruits them in your effort to fight against wickedness and to fight for righteousness and liberation. And notice the fight is twofold. You're fighting for something and someone, and you're fighting against something and someone. The fight is not just you're fighting against. You're also fighting for your people. You're fighting for dignity. You're fighting for knowledge. You're fighting for safety. You're fighting for nutrition. You're fighting for health, right? You're fighting for abundance and prosperity. But you're also fighting against the people that's getting in your way of those things. Another way, family, withdraw once a person or an institution has been identified as wicked as relates to how they operate with us, we can withdraw our support, financial and otherwise. Sometimes this is not as possible in some cases of us. But once you realize, oh man, this person, this leader that's been promising this ain't never delivered it, we're gonna stop supporting them. We're not gonna keep giving money to them. And everybody I know, I'm gonna say, I would not do that because this person doesn't come through. And we suspect this person is fraudulent. So we're not going to keep supporting somebody that never produces, never keeps their word, right? It means that you might be in an organization. One of my great jugglers, who's now an ancestor, Dr. James Turner, and another great his teacher, Dr. John Henry Clark, helped to craft what we call Africana Studies, and they were part of this organization called the African Heritage Association, which was really studying what was going on in continental Africa, right? And they got disillusioned with the fact that they were never addressing Africa, obviously, from the standpoint of black people. These were white people who had the organization, and they had black people in it. And they just got tired of having the same arguments with the white folk in this organization. And finally, they left the organization. They stopped going. They stopped participating. They stopped paying dues, and they created a black organization, Africana Heritage Association, and they still have annual conferences and everything where people come and present on different aspects of the African diaspora. Right. So you sometimes we kind of block our blessings by staying. We just want to keep going for. I don't want to keep going back and forth with people. If you say this don't work, you can move on. Create an organization that represents your views and values and interests. Right. Or you realize, man, I've been given to this charitable organization. You find out they're fallacious or they're racist. Or maybe you don't like the fact that a particular corporation where you get your favorite bags and shoes and hats and coats from is mistreating the indigenous people in their factories, in these sweatshops. You could say, I'll never buy a bag from them again. I don't give a damn how much I like the bag or coat or shoes or hat. I don't like what they're doing to those people. And I stand in solidarity with those workers. And you stop buying. And not only do you stop buying, you tell other people, I wouldn't support them. And this is where that research comes in. So it's not just you just talking. You got research to say these are some facts and what's going on. Are you with that? You're not with it? Let's withdraw our support. So, family, that's what I got for you. Now, one last thing though, and this is important. This is very important. There's a brother I talked about, Baba, who's now an ancestor, Sekou Odinga, dedicated his life. Sarah Shakur dedicated her life. This wasn't a hobby. This wasn't the side thing they do. They're going to fit between 18 other things. They said, don't like it. I don't like how our people being treated. I don't like how they talking about us. I don't like how they treat us, how they kill us, how our neighborhoods always overcrowded and stink and unsanitary and unhygienic. Our kids have no hope. They have anxiety issues. They don't believe in themselves. I don't like it. And they said, damn it, I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to keep doing something about it for decades until from cradle to grave. I'm going to keep doing something about it because they realize what? that the enemies, their opponents, are not people. J. Edgar Hoover sabotaged Marcus Garvey and the UNIA in the 1920s and all the way up to the 1970s with his wickedness against the Black Panther Party and the US organization and the Republican New Africa and the Nation of Islam. And you can keep going. Martin Luther King's organization. 50 years of work that J. Edgar Hoover did. Wicked. He's probably should be in the definition. Look up wicked. He's like, he should be there. 50 some years of his life he gave to spreading wickedness against us. So you see, we can't have no fly by night. We have to have people that say, yo, I'm gonna be like that, but for righteousness for us. I'm gonna give my life, I'm gonna put decades into this, or whatever time you got. And when I say this, I mean dedicate your life. You can look at it different ways. Be a Walima Baruti would say, call this type of person a warrior. I might call that type of person a soldier. People who are into spiritualist work might call this type of person a light worker. You bring light to darkness and ignorance. Give people clarity, show them the way, give them hope. Some people might call this a leader, a community organizer, an activist. There's a billion different things you could call it. But these are people who are working with great intention, not accidentally, not they I'm getting up every day, I'm doing this and I'm doing this because I'm trying to sabotage the wicked. And I'm trying to restore the greatness and the health and the beauty and the hope and the wealth of our people, right? You're trying to sabotage wickedness and bring liberation. And what happens with this, and this is important as we close with this part of it, is that the more people who dedicate their lives to this type of work, it's kind of like the comedians. We got all these black comedians. We got all the sisters and brothers that's TikToking and shaking their right. When you dedicate it, that's what you dedicate your life to. You're doing that all the time. You're modeling something for young girls. You're modeling something for the young brothers. Our brothers out here selling the drugs and gangsterizing the community. You're modeling a behavior. You're modeling something that you're saying, I dedicate my life to this. So this must be what? Something you might want to dedicate your life to. My language, the way I speak, what I call my sisters, how I address the brothers. I'm modeling behavior, right? That other people witness, and then some of them what? Mimic what we do. The more we dedicate our lives, more people we have like that to be warriors, soldiers, light workers, leaders, community organizers, activists, we become models for others so that they can see when we say conscientious, serious, informed, can back up what they say, they're not playing with this is what they do for real. We can point to people. They say, well, what do you mean? This is brother's name, who used to be Malcolm Little. Check him out. Check out what he went through. Check out all the stuff he went through. Check out the changes he made. Check out his courage in having to make these different changes throughout his life and transformations. And look at what he became. And look at all the people that he influenced in very positive ways, even after his death. People that never met the man weren't even alive, but through his words and actions, right? And there's so many people like that. So this is important because the modeling piece, I know as an educator, they always talk about, you can model for the students. So the teacher is never supposed to be yelling at the kids because then they're going to tell the kids, stop yelling. The kids will say, well, you yelling at us? You know how kids are. So we got to model it. If they're telling the kids to have their work on time, the teacher has to do their stuff on time. If they're telling the kids you got to work hard, sometimes you don't feel like it, that means the teacher has to do it. And they have to model that, hopefully, in a way where other people can see it, right? And see what it means. What does courage look like in human flesh? What does it look like? It looks like a brother like Martin Luther King saying the day before he was killed, saying, I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. My eyes have seen the coming of the glory of the Lord. Right? That means that's courage in real time, because otherwise these things become abstractions, things that are just words, right? So let's thank you for listening, family. Let's go to some of our ancestors. Excuse me, I got the brother on my mind. Let's go to some of our people in the comments. Some of them I may not know exactly what they're referring to, but I know the Queen says absolutely possible. Think she may have been talking about when we were talking about miseducation schools, that we can create public schools that really work, that are really high quality, even though they're public schools. And she said that our people produce the finest scholars despite these challenges for decades, and that is absolutely right. You know, how else do you explain a W.B. Du Bois, a Paul Robeson? I mean, great. Maulana Karenga got 2 doctorate degrees, but brilliant. Uh, Understanding that there were people working night and day to keep us illiterate, that it was actually against the law to read and write for our people, and that they even punished the so-called liberal white folk for trying to teach us to read. They got punished for that, right? Um, Brother Quabena in the building, a comrade. He says exactly. This prison industrial complex is death on our families. Yes, it's not just the wickedness doesn't just affect the imprisoned or the incarcerated. It affects the people that are uh, uh, intimately connected to this person, particularly their children. If they had a life partner, they're now going from having a partnership, doing things with 2 people to 1 person, and then we have kids. They have double the responsibilities now, and many times that works to break our families and our relationships when you have 1 person doing all this work. That was made for 2 people to do, or more people to do, right? Sister Brenda, the Queen, says they never tell us about our great ancestors. That's wicked. And by the way, there are politicians, DeSantos in Florida, I believe, who are fighting have legislation that we can't learn about Black history, that you cannot teach, and this is deep. You cannot teach anything that makes any population in the school feel that their people and heritage is being attacked. They something else, family. They something else. But he's dedicated. And they're in every pocket of every fabric of our society, they are. They're in the hospitals. We just talked about the hospitals and how they mistreat and disproportionately mistreat our people in the hospital. You in death-defying pain, and you gotta damn near do a doctoral dissertation to explain to them why you need pain medication, right? They're everywhere. And we got to be everywhere and stop this. There's only one way to serve. There's a million ways for our people to be soldiers. There's a million battlefields, family. We got to, you find your battlefield and you fight to the death, right? Don't be one of these people that's so rigid in your thinking that it's only this way. Right now, as the Queen correctly says, we encourage you to join the discussion. Your opinion does matter. We like your comments, your questions. Oh yes, brother. Could been a salute to our ancestor Sekou Odinga. Revolutionary salute for sure. And he seriously fought against wickedness. Absolutely. Y'all better study that Black Liberation Army. That's all I'm gonna say on that. This is a user-friendly show, a broadcast. There'll be times for we're gonna get into stuff differently. And the Queen says, yet they teach every day in the news and in our schools that our people are animals. And she follows up by saying, "We are attacked every day." I went to I'm going to say a meeting one year, and the people in this particular meeting, in this particular town, were very big on we are the quintessential, we are the capital, we are the, and I took issue with it, not on some personal beef thing, but on a political thing. Black people who live in a little hick town of 2,000 people that nobody has heard of. Are they Black? Are they New African? Does white supremacy exist in their town? Are they likely amongst the quickest to die, the quickest to go to jail, the quickest to be impoverished? Yeah, so they need soldiers there. Now we may not have heard of them, may not have a long legacy, but they need to fight. And what happens when we make this thing, like if I'm like Harlem is the end all be all, everybody outside Harlem is thinking, well, Harlem, if we want to know, we gotta look at Harlem. Harlem is everything. And to we Harlemites who are very proud of Harlem, some of us may say, yeah, Harlem is everything. But in truth, we know wherever Africans and new Africans are, we gotta fight wherever we are and whatever job we're in, whatever vocation we take. It's not this thing, I gotta be a Christian preacher to fight for human rights. I gotta be in the Nation of Islam to fight for no. I have to have farmland. I gotta be able to build a house with my own bare hands and fit. No, family. You choose your lane. Typically it's gonna be something you're really good at, something you love to do, and something that when you do it well. And not just you think you do it well, the community says, my gosh, that house you built was beautiful. Or you fix everything and it's never broken again. Or that speech or that poem, whatever you do. And if you think about all the different spaces we occupy, we need healers, we need educators, we need intellectuals, we need creatives. And in this sense, I'm talking about creative in the sense of like people that do movies, artists, actors, dramatists, people that write plays and movies and music, right? We need all of these different things. Builders. We need people that will protect us. You might say militias, such as like Anubis with my brother Moon, um, um, New Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton Gun Club, Geronimo Pratt Gun Club. We have people who do that. They chose their lane. This is what they do. It's what and listen. If you in circles with Geronimo Pratt Gun Club members, Huey P. Newton Gun Club members, Anubis, they talk about weapons all day. That turns them on. That's their thing. So they should be doing that work. That's what gives their life meaning. That's why we all have different talents and gifts, different personalities. We make our diversity a problem. But if you really thought about it, our diversity makes us so powerful, so powerful if we can learn to appreciate it and bring different people in on a team to make sure that our team, all flanks are covered. We have the people who are methodical that's going to stay up day and night till they figure that shit out. The people that's thinking about what happened, all 20 different possibilities and how we're going to address it. The people that don't have the patience, but they can't sit down for 10 minutes straight. But those people come up with magnificent ideas and different ways of looking at things and different ways of creating things and different ways of explaining things. Right? Then you got the people that's like, yeah, I hear all y'all, but this is how we're gonna make this money. This is how we're gonna keep this money. This is how we're gonna invest this money. This is how they're managers, excellent managers of resources. And what we tend to do is tease the people who manage the resource, the accountants, the mathematicians, and the scientists. You corny. All you do is this, and they tease the creators, and the creators. Got to stop that. There's room in this struggle for a whole lot of people, family, because wickedness occurs on so many levels that we need vast amounts of people to fight back against wickedness. We really do. Right? As the Queen says, very important. Family, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Particularly if you're right on YouTube watching this. We need your support. Tell your friends and family to subscribe, review our content there also. Thank you again for your support. So, family, if there are that's also kind of a little gentle thing. Okay, brother, we covered everything. Don't talk for another hour. And that's true. It's 51 minutes. Wow. Um, so, family, I hope you got the point that wickedness exists, not just in the Bible and in the Quran. It exists right here in your neighborhoods. The people that manage your buildings are probably wicked. Don't give you the heat. Appliances don't work. Toilets stopped up. They don't come for another month. Wicked. People running these jails. Wicked. People behind some of these public schools. Wicked. Some of these legislators. Wicked. Right? Wicked, family. Unethical. They mean you harm. And we need to raise a crop of people that's going to fight back. fight against them and fight for us. I hope you got it, family. I want to thank you for coming. Have a blessed day. Thank you for joining this Black Power Sermon. Let's get really excited. Let's get amped up about sabotaging the wicked. Let's weaken their attempts to harm us, right? And it's not going to happen overnight, but we can do it. We can win if we get our minds right. We believe in our people. We do the proper study. Peace, Black Power, Ukusu. We can win. Thank you. Have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week.